Fraser, you know what I was thinking the other day, man? I was listening to Prince.
Okay.
I was listening to Prince, and I was thinking how unique you are, like Prince.
Well,
I mean, artists that are able to sing well,
yeah.
play the guitar as well as you do, and like write like you do.
Dude, I appreciate you saying that. That is one hell of a comparison, and
Listen, it's not.
I'm humbled and honored that you would consider making that sort of comparison. But you know, I love songwriting, I love singing, and I love playing the guitar. So those three things for me are the three most important parts. Yeah.
And I knew that you were gonna kind of like deflect because you live in such like a world of artists in Nashville, but you really like it's very unique what you do, man. It's very it's very rare.
Thank you. Thanks, man. I think that you kind of grow and build your strengths through trial and error and through making mistakes and through being told you're not good enough and things like that. I remember going for a meeting with Decca Records in London when I was 24, 25. And it was one of those classic meetings where you're going in thinking this is going to be a life-changing meeting for you. And I sat down with one of the A&Rs at Decca and played my stuff for him. And he basically told me that my voice was all right. And he said my songs weren't good enough. But he said, oh, but you're a good guitarist. And I sort of walked out of that meeting with my tail between my legs thinking, my career is over. And he's right. And I can't believe I thought I was going to walk into this room and get a record deal. And it was like, I'll still never forget it. But those words were really what kicked me into gear and sent me to Nashville for the first time to kind of learn how to songwrite. And really that was like, okay, I got to hone my craft here. And that's where the bar sits. And I'm so thankful he said those things to me, because it really kind of kicked me into gear.
It did.
Yeah.
So he was right, you think, a little?
I think he was. Look, at the time I thought, what do you mean by songs aren't good enough? Listen to these songs, right? But that's kind of a typical like young 20s thing, I feel like. And I started making trips to Nashville to write. And I did like 7 trips over 3 years and started co-writing with people who were a million times better than me, and it was so eye-opening. And I'm thankful for those comments.
Yeah,
to be honest.
There's a thing, sir, that you said interesting. It first of all, it intrigues me that in every great musician, and you can see it like in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like U2 has a letter of rejection from like some label saying they suck.
Yeah.
It seems like there's always some like, it makes you wonder how many artists have actually like quit because some teacher or some person, some neighbor, some family member, like just like didn't get it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I think it only takes one yes. And I think this industry is full of rejections. And I think in every industry there's a lot of rejections, but I think it's particularly difficult in the music industry because it's very personal. Yeah. It's not like, oh, we don't think your product's good enough. And you go back and you try again or whatever. Yeah. It's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, you're not good enough. Right. Your songs, your ideas, your voice. And you're like, oh, and it just cuts you like a knife, when you hear those things. But I've really worked on just separating those two things and trying to just go, you know what? Music is taste, and it's also, it only takes one yes. It really does only take one yes for things to really change. And you're going to get a no 99% of the time. It's just, that's just the way it goes,
So when you started coming to Nashville,
right?
Is there any part of you that is insecure? And what I need is this. Like if I was an artist, I'm not an artist, and I was like the best in Miami, or you came from England.
Yeah.
Like you're the shit there. But in Nashville, like the level is so high. Is any part of that like make you like a little bit insecure?
I think it definitely makes you can definitely feel insecure when you're when you're a small fish in a big pond. But it's interesting how I started in an American school in London, in Surrey, Southwest London. And I was one of the only singer-songwriters at my school. So, you're kind of a big fish in a small pond. And then I went to LIPA, which is like a music school in Liverpool. And that was when I got a one-on-one songwriting session with Paul McCartney. Yeah. And it was Paul McCartney's music school. And again, I was right back again in all of a sudden realized, wow, I've got so much work I need to do in order to be able to just do this professionally. And then again, coming to Nashville and writing, it's like, wow, I realized how much more work I've got to do. And that's kind of a theme that continues to pop up in this industry, but it's like, that's how you grow, That's why you're so good, I think. Oh, I appreciate you saying that.
I do think it's kind of unfortunate, like to be a good artist, you kind of have to always be like hammering at the thing,
I think you do, yeah. And and through the struggle is kind of where the songs come from. Yeah. And through the feeling close to giving up or feeling close to throwing in the towel is often when really exciting things happen. And it's just, that's the way of this world, this industry.
And now, just listening to your stuff, man, they're like Out Without Me, for example. But I mean, I was thinking like, man, there's details here that like I've listened to so much music that I get, but I think 99% of the music people enjoying in the universe wouldn't like capture it. But I know you do it on purpose because you're such an artist. Like the layered vocals, Without Me, stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, that's a thing, right? Like you also come like also almost like obsessively compulsive over things that like only
Oh man, I just remember how I listened to music and grew up listening to music. It's the intricacies and the small nuances in the song, which is what really pulls you into an artist. So I think you putting those little bits of ear candy and pulling from your different influences. I grew up singing in gospel choirs, for example.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, my dad runs a gospel choir in London, and I grew up singing in lots of different gospel choirs. And even when I was like a little kid, I would sing the soprano part, and then as my voice started to change, I would then sing the alto part and then the tenor part, and then work my way kind of through the ranks as my voice would change. And it was a great way of learning harmony, and it was also a great way. It was that sort of influence. I thought I got to throw a bit of that into my EP. Mm-hmm. So Times Are Changin, which is the title track of the EP, there's a whole bunch of stacked harmonies in there and gospel vocals going on. And I wanted to pull a bit of my influences into the EP, Yeah.
That's incredible. I was talking to a producer friend like a couple of weeks last month, I think already in Miami. And he said that he's like a Latin, he makes hits for Latin artists. He said something interesting, and I this also reminded me of you to ask. He said that way he creates all these big songs for like Karol G or like Bad Bunny and stuff. He almost like doesn't even remember. It's almost like he blacks out when he's like in a trance, and it's almost like you wake up and you have like crumbs around you. When you do songs like Masterpiece or the ones that countless hits you've written for Michael Bublé or whoever,
right?
Do you Fraser, like, when it's just like flowing, what is that feeling like?
Such a good question. And I've listened to other interviews of people who have had success and written hits, and there's a lot of people share a similar experience where it's like, it kind of comes to you all at once sometimes. And for example, like when I wrote the song for Michael Bublé, that was a song that I remember I was outside, I got this kind of melody, bass line, groove all at once in my head, and I literally had to run inside and get my guitar and knock it out, almost like remember it before I forgot it. So it's like a moment of inspiration,
like, if the moment passes and you don't capture it, it's gone.
You can lose it. Yeah, but you can lose it, and it's not always like that. But I think, like for example, that one, which luckily enough landed on a Grammy award-winning album. That was, for me, that was a really profound experience. When that kind of idea came to me, I literally remember running inside and having to record it right away. But it's not always going to be like that. There are days where I have to write a song, or today's a songwriting day, and I sit down and I have zero inspiration.
Yeah,
and that's when you pull from your toolkit. Of like, okay, if I can't come up with a new riff today, or I can't think of a new melody today, let's start from another instrument, or let's write a song. And there's other ways of, you look at kind of maybe music theory. Okay, well, let's come up with a more interesting chord progression, or maybe just starting on a bass and writing from a bass line today,
Sure. Yeah, just try different things.
Yeah. Different strategies.
It's fascinating craft, what you do, Fraser. And like when you songwrite, like here in Nashville, when you with all your friends, wherever it may be, I also find that interesting because like, how do you start? You start saying like, hey, Fraser or whoever, Bree, Katie, whoever, like, what are you feeling today? What's going on in your life?
There's definitely a bit of that. You find yourself being like a bit of a therapist sometimes when you're writing songs. There's a bit of that. If you're writing with someone else, sometimes it's like, what have you been going through? Tell me what's been the hardest part of your day? Let's write about that. Or what is there? Are you in a new relationship? Let's write about that. Or are you experiencing loss? You can pull from that too.
Is that, gosh, like that sounds like so beautiful and easy in theory, but in practice, I mean, there's days that I don't know what's going on with me. It's like, you know what I mean? So it's like for me to like not only understand what's going on with me, but also tell you so that we can put it into a song. Like that has to be a very like personal relationship with your co-writer, right? Like,
it's definitely personal, and you get to know someone really quickly in the songwriting room.
Sure.
But then there's also days where I pull up my list of titles from my phone and I literally just have like words or sentences or titles, and I'll write them down throughout the day or whenever stuff comes to me. So sometimes we'll sit there and we'll just flip through a whole list of kind of hook lines or titles and write from there, big words like greedy or selfish or complicated, just try and find like a single word and write a song around that. And the strategy changes depending on the day. Yeah.
Can it also happen, Fraser, that like you're not diving 100% with a co-writer, so you don't want to open up that much? You almost like limits.
Yeah, I guess you have days where you think, you don't always get a great song. You don't always get a great song. Of course. I think like for every great song you write, you probably have to write 20 bad songs. Sure. It really is even the most successful songwriters in the world, singer-songwriters in the world, are probably only getting like 2 hits or 3 hits in a year. And they will probably write 250 songs that year to get those 3 hits. So it's so tough to get those magical moments. But when you capture them, it's so rewarding, and it just like such a payoff for all the other misses.
Let's talk about the new EP. So couple questions with that. First of all, I mean, you're like such a star. I'm glad that you're finally like kind of like doing your own thing. Why not 5 years ago?
That's a good question. I remember being an artist is kind of where it all started for me. I remember finishing up at Lipa in Liverpool in my one-on-one with Paul McCartney and saying, I played him a couple of songs and I said, what should I do now? Because I've just finished my degree. There's no interview to getting into the music industry. So you know what I mean? And he said, man, do what the Beatles did and play 5 nights a week. And I thought, okay, I guess that's what you do then. So I just started playing gigs, man. I know it's like you do it, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I guess that's what I got to do. And I started playing 5 nights a week in London. And I did that for 4 or 5 years. It was like anywhere that would have me, a pub, a club, or a restaurant, bar gig, whatever. I would just play like loads and loads of gigs in London. And that was my focus, was like writing songs and playing gigs. And I built up to a point where I was opening for Status Quo across the UK, and it was their acoustic tour. So I got the opportunity to play at the Royal Albert Hall, just my acoustic guitar and my voice. It was a really exciting moment, and it, of course, kind of felt like a culmination of this sort of 6 years in London of working towards that. And then all of a sudden, one of my songs got recorded by Charlie Puth. And that was a real pivoting moment for me. I decided that I got offered a publishing deal, and I felt that would be an amazing opportunity to start building a team. And I thought that would be a great opportunity to move to the States. Right. And start meeting lots of other producers and writers and artists. And I started sort of, I wouldn't call it a complete 180, but I started opening up to the idea of writing for other people. And since being in the States for the last 6 years, that's been part of my focus. But it's so great to now go back to where it all started. And that's why I titled my EP Times Are Changin. because it really does feel like times are changing. You know, I'm writing songs for myself again, and I'm putting songs out. And sometimes you write a song and it's just too special to give away. You know, so it's just so exciting to put out my own stuff.
It's so good. And the songwriting is just incredible, dude.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for your time. Let me ask you this, Fraser. I find fascinating, kind of a little bit of a side note, how great your social media online is. And I'll explain why. When I grew up, I'm a little older than you, but maybe when you remember, it was more inaccessible, like our rock heroes or pop stars. You had to like go and like get whatever magazine to see what Blink-182 was doing. It wasn't like now, where there was like constant like footage of like recording the song and like the behind the scenes. That to me like sounds exhausting. And I think that you have done such a nice job of like in 2024, better than anybody, I think, Fraser, of not putting yourself out there too much. A little mysterious Fraser Churchill.
Oh, well, I appreciate you saying that. You know, you always second guess yourself with social media. Right. And it has been a love-hate relationship a little bit with social media, but I know it's important. There are so many ways of getting your music out there nowadays. And I think we're lucky to have so many avenues nowadays.
But you don't love it. Like, you don't love to like put yourself out there on a daily basis.
I think it's got to be a balance, you know. I think that I don't want to some people put a video out every single day, and and some people promote their music in other ways. And for me, social media, I feel like putting a little bit up on each song is cool, and people who find my music can do a deep dive and discover a little bit of extra content for each song.
Sure.
But I feel like I'm less of a TikTok artist, and I feel like I'm more of a live artist, and I feel like I'm more, you know, I'm lucky enough that some of my songs are landing on a few Spotify playlists, and I feel like there are other ways of discovering my music than just purely TikTok. Sure. Even though TikTok is such a great way right now of like discovering new artists. So I'm sure I sprinkle stuff up there for sure, but I'm not dedicating 100% of my time to one platform.
Right. Well, Fraser, thanks for your time. Let me leave you with this. You just said that you're a live artist, and I've had the gift of seeing you live, and there is something special when you perform live in front of a room. I see the people's expressions, and you see it as well because you're there. How do you know when a song reaches that level of intimacy with an audience? Because I've seen a lot of great singer-songwriters, obviously, lots here in Nashville, but you have like an extra gear, an extra gear where I felt it. I've seen, people like just like tear up, man. It's just like there's something about your songs live. When you hit that next gear, how do you know? How do you know that the song is ready?
That's such a hard question. I think it's, when you write a song, there's usually like a general consensus that a lot of people seem to respond to a certain song. It's actually hard for somebody to pick their own songs. I feel like sometimes you almost want to write 20 songs and play them all out and see. Maybe you're too close to them, yeah. And I think how people interpret your music and let people I think it's important to let the audience decide sometimes about which ones are the ones to go with, and that's why I love playing live. You get to try out new songs and see which ones people gravitate towards and which ones people don't. Yeah. But I think the ones on my EP I'm really proud of, and I think those have been my favorite, and I've been lucky enough to get some great responses from those songs. Yeah, man.
Well, we're grateful for your time. If you want to take us over one of those songs, we'd be more than grateful.
It would be my pleasure.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. My name is Fraser Churchill, and I'm going to be singing my song Masterpiece.
I still remember the way that I felt the second you walked in the room. My heart started racing as I lost my breath, 'cause I'd never seen such a view. And I knew the rest of my life's about to start with you, holding you close in my arms. You are a masterpiece. my Mona Lisa, a work of art, a perfect melody. So take my hands and dance with me. I'll take the lead. You're a masterpiece made for me. Billions of people all over the world, but you wanted me by your side. Oh, I knew that Vincent would stand here in awe if he saw you on this starry night. And I knew our love is from here to the moon. And ooh, it ain't got nothing on you. You are a masterpiece, my Mona Lisa, a work of art, a perfect melody. So take my hand and dance with me. I'll take the lead. You're a masterpiece made for me.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here for the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from J-Rod Concert Media.